You've probably experienced this before. You're in a group conversation, people are talking, laughing, overlapping each other just to be heard. And you're there too, just not in the same way. You're not quiet because you're afraid. You're quiet because you're paying attention. You're noticing things most people miss. The tone behind the words, the pauses, the shifts. And then at some point, something changes. The conversation stops being surface level. A decision needs to be made. Something real comes up. And almost instinctually, people look at you, not for noise, not for entertainment, for clarity. That moment says more about you than hours of small talk ever could. But here's the part that can feel confusing. From the outside, this doesn't look like confidence. It looks like hesitation. People might assume you're unsure of yourself, that you're holding back, that you're waiting for permission to speak. But internally, that's not what's happening at all. You're not waiting, you're choosing. And that difference is subtle, but it changes everything. Most people grow up learning a very specific version of confidence. Be expressive, speak up, be visible, take space. And while that way of being is valid, it's not the only form confidence can take. There's another kind, a quieter one. The kind that doesn't rush to prove itself. The kind that's built internally, long before it's ever expressed externally. And this is often where introverted personalities operate differently. Not weaker, not less capable, just wired for depth over speed. From a psychological perspective, introversion isn't about disliking people. It's about sensitivity to stimulation. Your brain processes more at once. It filters more. It holds on to information longer before responding. So while someone else might think out loud, you think through before you ever say a word. And because of that, your words carry a different kind of weight. Not because you're trying to impress anyone, but because you don't speak until you actually mean what you say. Over time, this creates something most people don't immediately recognize: precision. You may not speak often, but when you do, it lands. People remember it. They trust it. And slowly, without announcing itself, a different kind of confidence begins to form. Not loud confidence, not performative confidence, but grounded confidence. This usually doesn't come from one moment. It builds quietly over years. Maybe you were the one who observed more than you spoke. Maybe you noticed patterns early on, how people shift, how conversations change beneath the surface. Maybe you realized that listening gave you more understanding than reacting ever could. So instead of moving quickly, you learn to move accurately. And that accuracy becomes your anchor. You start trusting your timing, your judgment, your ability to read a situation without needing constant input from others. That's not insecurity, that's awareness. But this is where things become more complicated, because the world doesn't always recognize this kind of presence. We live in environments that reward speed, quick answers, quick reactions, immediate visibility. So when you pause, when you don't jump into every conversation, when you choose silence over unnecessary words, it gets misunderstood. But there's a difference most people don't notice. Silence can come from fear, or it can come from control. One feels like shrinking, the other feels like stability. And if you pay attention to your own experience, you already know which one yours is. The real challenge isn't your confidence, it's translation. Because when you don't actively project your presence, people don't always see it. Opportunities don't always wait. Recognition doesn't always arrive on its own. And that creates a quiet kind of tension. You know what you're capable of, but the room doesn't always reflect it back to you. And that can feel isolating in a way that's hard to explain. Not because you lack confidence, but because your confidence was never designed to be loud in the first place. It was built differently, through observation, through reflection, through a steady relationship with your own thinking, which makes it quieter, but also more stable than most. It doesn't disappear when attention shifts. It doesn't depend on constant validation. It doesn't need an audience to exist. And maybe that's the part that's been misunderstood all along. Confidence isn't always movement. Sometimes, it's stillness. It's the ability to sit in a moment without rushing to fill it, to speak without over-explaining, to exist without constantly proving that you belong. If this feels familiar, then what you're experiencing isn't a lack of confidence, It's a form of it that just isn't immediately visible. And once you recognize that, you stop trying to force yourself into louder versions of confidence that were never meant for you. Because the world doesn't only need people who are heard quickly. It needs people who are heard clearly. And those voices are usually the ones that take their time. And if something in this felt uncomfortably accurate, there's probably more to the way you think and move through the world that hasn't been put into words yet. And once you start noticing it, you won't be able to unsee it.